Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion on this Monday morning. And wow, last week, even though it was a shortened week, we certainly did have plenty of different activity. Fireworks seemed to be going off each and every day. And as a matter of fact, on Friday, wow, there was some extreme movement absolutely going on within the marketplace itself. So let's start off with the Dow. The Dow started off the day, nice big jump. It was up about 300 or so. It hit the lows of the day towards that 2 p.m. hour. And that always seems to be the time of day where we seem to get those moves, that final couple of hours. Well, we still finished up in the positive. We've still finished up about 130 points on the day. So all was not lost. But you take a look over at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ, which slid, it began the day over 11,000, started sliding as we got through the day. And as a matter of fact, slid nearly 200 points as we got towards the close to finish in the red, actually down about 60 plus points. So we started to see that dislocation once again, that effect that we've seen time and time again. Either we've seen the outperformance of the NASDAQ or the underperformance. Certainly the underperformance on Friday definitely stood out, and there were specific names. I'll get to those in just a second. But the interesting aspect of those markets, despite the fact, as I said, movement all over the place, was the fact that we watched volatility again coming down, 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 and the range getting tight once again. So the range about 26.5 towards that 29.5 sort of area. We actually finished towards the low end of that range, but volatility still, as we talk about all the time, we had been in those 30s just a week and a half ago or so. We were at 36, that big pop up, and then we started this pullback, and we continue this pullback well under 30 and not looking like we need to test 30 anytime soon. So volumes certainly were strong once again. We've been talking about this for a long period of time, but again, over 34 million contracts once again trading. You had Apple, little over 3 million, Tesla, 1.5 million, Nikola trading about 550,000. You had Peloton and Microsoft also over 500,000. So you could see some of the real activity and how much of that activity isolated to just a few stocks, just an amazing thing. So we look over at the Dow, and you always want to sort of look, all right, what's going on in between? Well, Nike was certainly a leader, but we also had a lot of the various industrial names themselves. We had Caterpillar and Dow and 3M and Boeing, Honeywell, all moving to the upside, not dramatically, but the XLI, when you look at it towards the end of the day, finishing up a little over 1%, like 1.3%. So a pretty nice performance. Now, what was really dragging on the NASDAQ? Well, Norton was one of those names, LifeLock. That was the leader. That was down about 6%, but you can add quite a few other names. AMD, PayPal, Lulu, you got Amazon, all of them down 2% or more, pulling on that NASDAQ, and that's why we see the NASDAQ actually finishing in the red on Friday. So that was something interesting. I'll tell you the really interesting one was Peloton. And we had a great debate on this stock, as a matter of fact, Friday on the halftime report, and I had my opinions. They're very adamant about what's really going on and what I think the future looks like, which is going to be something far more hybrid than an absolute. So I think that makes so much more sense. I see the markets in front of us as we get into 2021 with a very hybrid effect. In other words, my opinion was that we are going to see people going back to work, but maybe not everybody's going to be going back to work. And if they are they going to be going every day? My guess would be no. There's going to be some form of a hybrid workforce, and hybrid in so many other ways. And that sort of feeds right into the Peloton idea, which is stay at home. You're just at home. That's it. No gyms. Are we never going to the gyms once again, ever? Well, that was pretty much my argument. So I look over at Peloton that actually reached up and towards that $100 level. And by the end of the day, actually, the stock was down about 4% after hitting all-time highs and a great earnings report. And it makes sense. Their growth was outstanding. But my thought and theory was, is that growth going to continue to be at this sort of a pace as we start to come out of the pandemic, as we get some vaccines at some point? And unless you don't think we are ever going to get a vaccine, then you'd be right, and you'd see Peloton continue to grow and people bringing this into the home and those types of names. Zoom, for instance. Zoom is another one where their growth has been absolutely spectacular. It'll probably continue to be very, very strong. But at some point in time, if I'm right about the vaccines at some point in time, getting early 2021 and getting some help for folks, that certainly, I think, does change things a lot. And that's why I say I think we move into more of a hybrid world rather than a strictly stay-at-home type world. All that will play out. We'll see. And everybody's got opinions, so that's something pretty interesting. The pre-markets today looked really great. And as a matter of fact, you look at the S&P up about 40 points. That looked pretty strong. You look at the Dow up about 225 points. Pretty strong, just under 1% move to the upside. But take a look over at the NASDAQ. Now, we talk about the NASDAQ dragging. Well, the NASDAQ's not dragging today. The NASDAQ is not dislocated today. It's all working together. As a matter of fact, NASDAQ was up about 165 points in the pre-market. It was up about 1.5%. I'm looking at it right now. The NASDAQ up almost 2% or 215 points as the Dow's up 1%, 280 points. So that's what the early look is right now. As a matter of fact, volatility under 26. Now we're looking at volatility, the VIX trading right around 25.5, call it, down another 4%. Now this was a huge business day in terms of the news across the board, just absolutely market moving. And a lot of this is part of the reason, a big portion of the reason why you are seeing some of the moves that you're seeing. And I'll give you a little bit of an idea what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about NASDAQ, I'm talking about biotech, and I'm also talking chips. So NVIDIA, that certainly does stand out. This is a $40 billion deal for ARM Holdings. That was announced. Then you've got Gilead with a $15 billion deal with Immunomedics. That's pretty interesting. That's a pretty big number. You've got Oracle and TikTok. You've got Micron with a huge upgrade over at Goldman Sachs. I'm going to talk a lot more about that in a moment. And then you've got Merck with their collaborative investment and collaboration that they're working on as well. So all kinds of news, both on the biotech world, on the healthcare world, and obviously I mentioned the chips and technology, all of that working together. We'll get into that a little bit. But what is the reaction that we're seeing right now? Well, I talked about how the NASDAQ's up 200 plus points. NVIDIA's up 8%, now 9% as I look over here, and I see the Dow up now 300 points. But that's up about 8%. Micron on this upgrade really moving to the upside, up about 6.5%. You got Oracle. We talk about TikTok. That's up 4%. We got Facebook up a little over, just under 3%. We got Marriott up about 3%. Wow, that says something about maybe the stay-at-home trade. Are people going to go back to hotels? You get the idea of what I'm talking about here. I don't think people are going to be isolated. We are a social society, and I think at some point in time we are going to see this sort of breakthrough. But that's still something to be seen. Zoom, on the opposite side of that, is up as well today, but not up nearly as much, up a little over 2.5%. So a lot of movement there. I've got Apple up as well, about 2%. You look over at some of the financials, they're participating pretty well as well. You got Visa, American Express, and JP Morgan all up anywhere from 1.25% up towards 2%. So where is a weak spot today? Well, there is weak spot right now. Energy. I tell you what, it's absolutely amazing to me to watch each and every day as we've watched energy. We talk about crude oil all the time. Well, crude oil actually pulling back underneath 37. Now, we were talking about it in the low 40s for a while, quite a while. It was hanging in there, 42, 43. Now you're looking at crude trading underneath 37. And what's happening to some of those stocks? Well, Apache, Occidental, Marathon, Schlumberger, National Oil, Varco, throw in Chevron, all to the downside. And it is not looking pretty. That is the one sector that really does stand out in terms of lack of participation relative to so much participation elsewhere, where we've got financials working, we've got industrials working, we've got tech, we've got semis. And I got to tell you something, the area that will be overlooked all day long, guarantee you this, biotech. Take a look over it. Well, maybe not. Maybe they'll finally wake up. But it's something that we've been talking about here on the take for a very, very long period of time. When people talk about the NASDAQ and all they talk is tech, they're wrong. Here's what they really should be talking about. It's not just about tech. It's also about biotech, the biotech world. It's also about the chips. We mentioned all these chips in this movement to the upside. It's been very, very strong. Take a look at the biotech indexes. The XBI is up nearly 5%. I look over at the IBB, that's up over 4%. So there is strength out there that is not just strictly Microsoft and Apple. We've seen strength in those names, but there's participation elsewhere as well. So that's something that oftentimes gets overlooked. It's really unfortunate because a lot of people put this tunnel vision and they all read the same article and there are 4 or 5 stocks. Not true. We've had far more participation than that, and it's much broader swipe. And today I think you're seeing a great example of what I'm talking about. Now, unusual option activity. We got Micron. Yes, we had the upgrade, Goldman Sachs this morning. Yes, this is a stock where we've seen paper, it seems like, constantly. I love this name. I've got some calls, I've got some stock, and I'm looking at calls today that are trading that are very short term. These are September. That means they expire Friday, so be very careful. But stock was trading right around 49. What are they buying? The September 50 calls. 17,000 of those calls trading anywhere between 25 cents and all the way up to about 75 or 80 cents. But a very, very strong, that's a big trade. Now, I know dollar-wise, maybe it's a little bit less because we're not talking about very expensive options. That's kind of nice because it is a very, very short term. We're talking about Friday expiration. And this stock's got to get moving. It's had a nice move today. Can it continue this move and can it get up towards that 50 number? If that's the case, these options absolutely can perform. It's going to be something really interesting. I want to thank absolutely everybody for making a great the Twin Cities Lime Foundation Gala. It was very difficult. It was virtual this year. We've always done it live. We've always had great music. We've had the Spinners. We had Don Felder a couple of years ago. It's always been great. We had a really exciting act that was going to be performing this year from Las Vegas. Good friend of mine, but none of that was able to happen because they had to do this whole thing virtually. But the virtual gala was only a little over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. It was fantastic, and I really appreciate everybody who participated. I can't thank you enough. We had a great night. We had a lot of folks that were donating, which is wonderful. You can continue to donate. If you just want to donate to TwinCitiesLyme.org, it will get people the opportunity to get to a Lyme literate doctor to be properly diagnosed. So that's very important to us. That's not a one day of a year kind of a thing. That's something that can happen all year round. So anybody who wishes to do so, that would really be wonderful. But we also want to just thank you for having a great event this past Saturday night. That was really awesome. My wife was so excited, and I was excited for her because this is helping so many people. And this is very difficult because everybody's focused so much on the pandemic, and rightfully so. But there are still so many different other areas out there and charities out there that are working on so many different things. We are one of them. My wife really is the engine behind the whole thing, and I really appreciate everything she's doing. Folks, get educated. Knowledge is king. Understand the options world, the derivatives world. Our package went for a nice premium. I'm not going to give the numbers out, but unbelievable. And I want to thank the people who did bid on the Market Rebellion package because it's a full educational package. That's the most important part, and moves you in towards the unusual option activity as well. So it really was exciting to watch and really do appreciate all of that. Thank you very much. And again, knowledge is king. Make sure you understand what you're doing in the world of the options world. That's where the growth is. You keep talking every day. I'm going to keep talking about this because this didn't just start happening with this volume. And it seems like every time I turn on the TV, I hear a lot of folks talk about, wow, the volumes have really picked up. They've been there all year, guys. And if you've been watching The Take each and every day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We have had volume all year long. 2020, this is going to be a record setting year. There's no doubt about that. And that builds upon record setting years in 18 and 19 that were just spectacular. But this is going to be far more. Those years averaging very close to the 20 million mark. This year we are something way in front of that right now. As I mentioned today on Friday, about 34.5 million contracts trading. Folks, have a great day of trading today.